ladies and gentlemen, something a bit different. I'm going to kick it off this time. Instead of hearing Alex's voice.
Yeah, don't wear that, mate.
Welcome to Match Chat. You know, we're going to talk about our own fishing again. You know, I haven't been doing a great deal, so I'll probably kick it off because there's not a lot to talk about. I think Alex has been doing a little bit more, haven't you, mate?
Yeah, back to Western, mate, all that.
Yeah, so we're going to kick it off with our own fishing, and then we've got sort of two subjects that we've been asked to sort of discuss and give our opinions on, haven't we? So we're going to kick it off with our own fishing and what we've been doing, and then we're going to go straight into these subjects and have a little debate about them.
Yeah.
But I'll start it off. You know, I haven't really done a lot of fishing. I've been suffering with my back. I've had a real bad back. Been off work and all that with it. Basically need an operation. So we'll be out for a little bit, I think, in the future. But, you know, I did manage to get out on the bank twice since the last time. So I fished a silverfish match up a local venue to me, Red Hill Fishery. It's not far away. It's only like 25 minutes away. But it's not really normally fished for silvers. It's only recently they started fishing for them. But anyway, turned up at Red Hill Fishery. You know, we've had that sort of cold snap before everything was iced over. And they put an aerator on to clear it. So all the ice melt went into it. So knew it was going to be a hard all day. Went in the bag, drew out peg 26, which doesn't mean a lot to you lot, but anyone who knows Red Hill knows that it's not a very good area. It's like the shallowest part of the lake. So Penny's Lake at Red Hill has got like a bowl at the one end, which is sort of 12 to 14 foot deep, and then it shallows up towards the other end. But even up the other end, you can find sort of 7 or 8 foot. The peg I was on was 3.5 foot at 11 meters, 4.5 foot at 13, and I managed to find 5 foot at 14.5 meters, which, to be honest, was quite shallow. I spoke to a few people that fished it the week before, or 2 weeks before, on a silverfish match. And they said you needed to sort of find 7 foot, and I couldn't find that anywhere in my peg. So went about it, fed a couple of lines, 11 meters, 30 meters, and 14.5. The wind was quite bad. Did catch a couple of skimmers at 14.5 meters, but it was just so hard to hold that I've had to sort of come back to 13 and just sort of, you know, chance my luck a little bit. But skimmers just didn't want to be in that shallower water, and it was clear to see that everyone around me was not catching either. So definitely that shallower end was no good on the day. But managed to feed a little bit of sloppy ground bait off at an angle, 30 meters, and loose fed some pinkies over it, and caught on a sort of a lighter rig than what I would normally fish because it was towing quite a bit. Caught on a lighter rig and did catch some roach the sort of second half of the match, which
Nice.
You know, got me sort of. I think I weighed £7, £7.14 or £7.13.
Yeah, I can't remember what you said, mate.
You know, I've sort of 4 or 5 skimmers and the rest roach. On the day, that was 5th on the day, and I think they paid top 4. So I was like one out of the money. There was 2 £14, a £14 10 ounces and a £14 4 ounces, and then a £12, and then a £9 odd was 4th then. So it wasn't a million miles away.
No,
but you know, done the best from where I was really. You know, there was 20 people on the match, and I've ended up 5th, so I've ended, you know, above halfway, not far off the money. So I was quite so happy with that from the area I was on, and sort of the fact that the wind was stopping me from fishing long. So, you know, that was my one match I fished. The second match I fished was on the weekend, on Sunday. Went to Marston Fields for the Golden Rod qualifier. So I went up there. I know a lot of people are sort of, you know, saying about Marston Fields and saying about how hard it is and all that, and you know, it is quite a new fishery, isn't it? So
yep,
I think it needs time to sort of, I think it needs time really before people make the decisions about it. But anyway, went up there, drew Oak Lake, smack bang in the middle, peg 21. Didn't really know what to expect because obviously it is fishing quite hard up there. My zone was split with Willow, which Willow's been catching quite a few fish. See, it's won quite a lot of the matches up there recently.
Yeah.
And they are bigger fish. So, drew on Oak Lake. Bit of a weird one because everyone said he was fishing hard. But in the summer, when I went up there and fished Midland Semi, I drew on Sycamore, which is like above Oak.
Yeah.
And it was a club match on Oak at the time. And I looked out over, and you've never seen so many fish in your life in the margins on that Oak Lake. And I thought, bloody hell, this lake is solid.
Yeah.
And everyone sort of weighed like 100 pounds. And so in my head, I knew there was loads of fish in it.
Yeah.
I knew there was loads of carp in it. I've seen them. I've seen them with my own eyes. So in my head, I was thinking, well, I know they're in here. If I can get a few pulls off them, I'd be away like. And fished for carp for about the first hour and a half. They only pegged one bank, so you could chuck over.
Yeah.
Fished a method over for the first sort of hour and a half. Never had a bite. Was looking around the lake and it was fishing hard. There wasn't many people catching. Dropped on a market feeder down the middle, the middle part of the match. Caught a few F1s and a couple of skimmers, but just wasn't quick enough. Do you mean I probably had 10? I think it was like 8 F1s and 2 skimmers for about £7.
Yeah.
And it just wasn't quick enough. And the boys that sort of started on the F1s straight away, I'd caught a few more like. So I made a decision there and I thought, well, I'm not going to win doing this. If I catch 2 or 3, maybe 4 big fish over that far bank, then, I'll qualify.
Yeah.
So made a decision last hour and a half to sitting out on the far bank. Had 1 pull, which played like halfway in, which felt a good fish. And just shed the hook halfway across the lake. So
yeah.
That was that really.
It's them old fish, mate, as well. The mouths aren't great.
I had £7. £20 won the zone.
Yeah.
So I feel like in the zone could have won.
Yeah.
One or two pulls and anyone could have won. But it was quite a close match, really. Probably, although the weights wasn't brilliant and it didn't fish the best, it was probably one of the fairest golden rod matches I've ever been on. Because, anyone in that zone could have won.
Yeah.
It wasn't like all the fish were like shouldered up in one end peg or. Do you mean anyone across there could have had a couple of pulls and won the match like?
Yeah, that's it. And
qualified. Yeah, so like it was one of them really. I went in front of me a little bit disappointed, but that's fishing and that's winter fishing at the end of the day. Like, it is what it is. You go there, you take a chance, and you hope you're going to win the zone, then you to qualify. But never did. So that was my 2 matches that I fished. Haven't really got out anymore, but and to be honest with you, this weekend I got my daughter, so I can have a little rest anyway because my back is bad at the moment. So so I'm gonna have a little rest this weekend. But you've been out a little bit over the last couple of weekends at Western, haven't you?
Yeah, we've been back on Covode Winter League at Western. So for anyone that doesn't know, it's 48 on the Western Winter League. It's got, to be honest with you, it's got popular every year. Phil
It's a mega league, isn't it?
Oh yeah, Phil runs a great league. He runs a really great.
I wish it was sort of an hour and a half closer to me, because if it was, I'd definitely come up and fish that, because I love Western anyway. But it's just a little bit too far for me. Everyone thinks that because I'm in Wales. Everyone thinks that because I'm in Wales, Western's close to me, but it's 2 hours 40 minutes, like 2 hours 30 minutes. So it's not exactly close. So it's not exactly close, but it's a brilliant place and a brilliant league he's running there, isn't it?
Yeah, definitely. It's ran over Belve, Stretton, Weir and Canal, so all of the on-site lakes apart from Jack's. And to be honest with you, I think Weston's making a big change, well, a big turn anyway, from what was a couple of years ago when you weren't catching a lot, really. I think Mike and the team have now got the fishery back to what it sort of used to be. He's stocking it every year. There's loads of bites to be had. It is really good at the minute. Um,
Yeah,
but
I've noticed there's a lot of stockies getting caught, but those stockies are also sort of bringing on those better F1s and those bigger F1s, isn't they?
yeah, they are 100%, mate, 100%. But yeah, first round of the league. And I have drawn myself peg 4 on Canal, which is it can be a really good area. Really can be a good area. But I think with the weather that we had that week previously, it was dropped really cold just before the big freeze that we had. Um, it was gonna be hard. Everything that I've caught has been sporadic. It's never been ticking over with bites. It's been the odd bite here, odd bite there. Even in the last hour, it's just been the odd sort of bite. Nothing to tell you that there was a lot of fish there. And I've finished up with £28, which has been fourth in section. Bit of a bad one, really. I have
The big sections out.
yeah, so they are, I think they are 8 peg sections, I think. So mid,
Yeah,
so mid,
fourth's not a disaster then. It's not a
no, no.
disaster
So
at all.
yeah, yeah. When it comes to it though, it was 34 pounds won the section up on peg 8 or peg 20, one of the two. Can't remember where it was. I think it was Phil Hardman on peg up that end somewhere. Um, but I've hooked a carp with about an hour to go. I've got it into my net, and with the water clarity, I've seen it about 2 foot down. As I've gone to net it that far down, I should have been a lot more patient and just played it out. I've stabbed at it. I've had it in the net, and as I've had it in the net, it's broke me up length and done one out my net. But that would have got me
Oh no.
probably either won the section or second in the section. So it's one of them.
That's a little
It's
bit of a
one of them
lesson learned,
things.
isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
I always say to people, like loads of people speak to me like when we're sort of fishing in the
Yeah,
winter and all that, and I always say to people, the worst thing you do is hook the fish and not have it in the net.
yeah,
Like it's the easiest thing in the world to say, not to get like excited and try and get it in the net quick, but like
yeah.
they're hard enough to get on the hook, and so like
That's
when
it.
you do actually get one,
That's it.
you need to get it in, like you need to make sure it's in that onion sack,
Yeah,
like.
yeah. And to be fair, I've been traveling with Andy Moores to all of these winter leagues. A lot of you out there will know Mooresy. Obviously, his dad as
Top
well,
lad, isn't he?
class angler. Won Camasan match for the year. He's got loads about him. Mooresy has. He's been on.
Loads of character as well.
Oh, he's hilarious,
Isn't he?
mate. He's hilarious.
Bags of character.
Yeah.
I bet it's a great drive home.
Oh yeah, 100%, mate. Always get that sausage roll on the way back. But yeah, he's drawn 27 on Belv, and he's had 50, I think he's had 55, £56, something like that, which has been good. He's been second in section in that, but he's won his section by default. Robbie Griffiths has been on 32 Belv. Shock, Robbie on an end. But he's absolutely
I see that.
obliterated.
Dobbed the area, didn't he?
Yeah, he's absolutely
He dobbed the
obliterated
area.
the match. I think he
Yeah.
had £132, which has absolutely ruined it. Um, and yeah, fair play to Rob. He's a class angler, real class angler. But it still meant there's money in the van for me and Morsey, so that's all we were bothered about.
Uh, Not too bad, not too bad.
No, no.
Makes up for that lost fish.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Um, After that, we've obviously had the big freeze come on the Monday, Tuesday, after that. So I've got a few days off, so I thought, sod it, I'll book Wednesday off and I'll have a trip up to Isaac Walton on the open match, which surprisingly there was still sort of 14, 15 on. It had got probably 10, well, not even 10 mil, I'd say sort of 6 to 8 mil of ice on it. So it's quite easy to break. And I have ended up with 28 pound of skimmers to the ice, feeding some loose ground bait and fishing a 2 mil expander over the top, which has been really nice, sort of fishing at 11 meters one way and then 14.5 meters the other, just rotating my lines, catching sort of fish up to £2, which has been really good. And that's been second in the match, behind one of the lads that's gone on bottom pull, Dean Lockett, really good angler. And he has had £33 of all roach and small skimmers,
Oh,
which
lovely
seemed,
day.
I went down to see Dean before the start of the match, and he'd only sort of broke 8 meters in front of him one channel. And he's just caught on casters all day, which is really unheard of. But with Dino, he's a very good angler, and I don't see it as a one-off thing with anything that he does.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It's a
but
lovely day's fishing, isn't it?
yeah, really, it's really consistent up there at the minute, mate. I think every peg's capable of loads of bites, so it's nice. But yeah, on to the next one. Back to Western for the second round of the league. I have drawn on Canal again, which seems to be a pattern every time I go to these Western Winter Leagues. So I always seem to be on the same lake for the majority of every round. But I have drawn 33 in the bowl, which is probably, would you say, it's probably the deepest part of the lake in it that I've, to be fair.
Yeah, it's the deepest part of the lake. It's a bit of an iffy one, that, isn't it? Like
Yeah.
sometimes the fish are there and sometimes they're not.
Yeah.
But can you reach the area to there?
It's
33.
just past 16 meters with a long
Just
forend.
past
So,
16.
yeah,
I
so
remember
that's
Christian
yeah.
dobbed the few, didn't he?
Yeah, that's it. That's it. But I have set a waggler up, set a 2 gram crystal wag, and I've literally chucked that sort of to the aerator to my left for probably 3 hours of the match. And
Yeah.
that's what's really pulled me out, to be honest with you. The lakes fish really hard. The Lakers fish really, really hard. Stay Open Shores won the lake with 40 odd pound, I think, from peg 20, which is obviously a known area. Um, I
Yeah.
have won the section. I've had £21. But literally all I've done for most of the match is chuck a waggler with a single maggot and a size 20 F1 pellet to 0.8 up length, which is a bit mad.
Shallow.
I've chucked it a foot off the deck, mate. Chucked it a foot off the deck.
Yeah.
Um, and I've had a nice day. I've had £21.
No,
Nothing
no
ridiculous.
feed, Al.
I've fed,
No feed, just chucking it about.
yeah, just chucking it about, just actually hitting it, looking to obviously get the fish that are just swimming around, really docile. Obviously, we'd just come out of that big freeze. The aerators had been on for 2 to 3 days, so all of that ice water was being recirculated. The last thing I think them fish want to be doing when that water's being recirculated around is be sat on the bottom.
Yeah.
I don't think they want
No, you've done.
to. But yeah,
I think you've done the right thing there, and you've obviously won the section, so you've obviously done it right.
yeah, but it's been a weird one. I've had two F1s. Um, I've had a big perch which was just pushing £3. That was first chuck on the waggler. Lovely. And
You go Sergeant Major.
yeah, a bit of a weird story with that one as well. Obviously I fed no bait in my peg, fed absolutely nothing. And I've had this little dink. I've been on the phone to James Owliff at the same time, and I've hit this thing, and I thought, oh, it's F1 this, get it in. as it's come to the net, I've netted it and thought, Jesus Christ, big perch this. And as I've gone to unhook it, I've picked it up, I've gone to look down its throat, and its throat's full of maggots, like absolutely full, like regurgitating them up the lot. And I'm thinking to myself, we're only 10 minutes into the match here. Where the hell has this perch been to eat all of them maggots? And the only thing I
Yeah.
can think of is the day before, because they had an open on for the ice-free areas. This perch has just gorged itself on maggots from the day before that was still on the bottom, probably. And when I've caught it, it's literally just been there.
It's
So
mad, isn't it? It's mad to think that they've stayed in the bottom that long.
yeah, bit. I obviously don't know because I don't know whether someone, because fish swim, don't they? I don't know whether someone on the other side of the lakes, obviously, fed a load of bait and this perch has gone straight down to it and swam round to me. I don't know, but I highly doubt it because
Yeah.
it was that early into the match.
Strange things happen in match fishing, don't they, that you can't
Yeah,
explain, and that's one of them. Like, you mean, like I've had it before where I've caught like chub and perch,
yeah,
and they've got a throat full of bait,
yeah,
and it's not the bait you've been feeding.
yeah,
You think to yourself, well, where have they been to eat that?
yeah,
And you
exactly.
think, and you think to yourself, well, the pile of ground bait in his mouth, pile of casters in his mouth, and all I've been
Yeah,
doing is feeding maggots. So where's he been to eat all that ground bait and casters? Like,
yeah, yeah,
and
no,
strange things happen, don't they? But
yeah,
yeah, it's one of those things you can't really explain. But he's obviously been somewhere else eating.
yeah. And yeah, that's that day really. Other than that, I've jumped on another little winter league up at Isaac Walton. Just it worked out quite well, to be honest with you. The owner gave me a call last week, George, and said, "We got this little winter league on. There's 15 on. Do you fancy jumping on?" And I had a look at the dates, and they don't clash with the Western one, so it goes bi-weekly, obviously for both. So I've jumped on that, and I've drawn peg 15 on Canal Lake. Um, it's where they've been doing a hell of a lot of work to that Canal Lake at the minute, expanding it and doing some work with the digger. It's the it's the actual part where they've started to expand it. So I've thought when I've got to my peg, I've thought it's either going to be really, really good or it's going to be absolutely horrendous. And to be honest with you, it's been in the middle. I've had £28 for I think third in section. But the lake's fished really hard. The weights that have come out, the 35 and the 33 down the bottom end, they've caught consistent F1s throughout the day. Whereas my peg, the only thing I could get a bite on from an F1 or a carp was maggots, um, which has been really frustrating because there's that many silverfish up there. It's been one of them days where everything that I've hooked, you get bites all the time, but they're all that big, and you're like, yeah,
You're not in there long. You're not in there
no,
long for an F1 or a carp to take the bait. Like,
no, exactly, and it's just been odd fish, mate, going all the way through. But I'd say a third in section is the bad thing. It's the whole lake, so the seven, I think there's 7 or 8 on the lake, so I'm not too displeased with that. But yeah, with this weather warming up now, mate, I think anything could happen though, couldn't it? I think we could be looking at
yeah, well,
what happened at Christmas again.
I've been out feeding the fish, and the fish are eating like in a
Yeah,
pond. So it is warming up a little bit. Yeah, it could. The next week or two, it could be really good, couldn't it?
yeah, it could be. Could be fishing shallow again. Could be catching some down the edges. You never know, mate. It's really
Yeah.
strange for this time of year, but like the weather's already said, it's given this for 2 to 3 weeks now, so it could get really settled and we catch a load. So
Yeah, well, let's hope I can get out and do a bit of fishing in that meantime.
yeah,
So
definitely,
I'm
mate.
due to catch. I'm due to catch a few, but that's, right then, guys. That's sort of a roundup of our fishing and what we've been doing. Um, we're not gonna bother doing a roundup of what's going on around the country. We'll leave that till next week.
Yep.
But we've got a few sort of subjects that people have asked us to cover, haven't we? So
We have.
We've got quite a few subjects to cover over the next couple of weeks, but we're going to start with two that we've been asked to sort of give our opinions on, and have a little bit of a chat about.
Yep.
So the first one is pushing the rules and pushing the boundaries, isn't it?
Yeah, and this is obviously this come from one of our good mates, and it really it's come from Phil Cov,
Yeah,
the big man.
the big man.
I think it
What's your sort of opinion on it then?
I honestly think the best in the game try to push the rules as much as possible, but at the same time, I feel that it's a weird one, isn't it? Really, because rules inflict what people can and can't do, but at the same time, people will
Yeah,
push it as far as possible. Um,
I feel that I feel it's sort of like a rule is a rule,
yeah,
and I've always been the type that would stick within the rules, and if there's a
exactly the
rule
same.
there, that's what I about to.
Yeah,
And since I've been a sponsored angler with Preston and Sonu, I feel like even more so I
yeah,
can't push the rules because even if I wanted to, I
yeah,
couldn't because
exactly.
you're seen in that sort of environment as that person, the sponsored, and it'd be taken completely out of context.
Yeah,
But if a rule's there, I as long as you're within the rules, then pushing up to the rule, I think is okay
yeah,
as long as you're within that rule. It's when you start going past that sort of barrier and you're pushing past that rule. You're sort of you're bending it to the point where it's giving you an advantage.
yeah. I think
That's when I feel is a bit naughty.
yeah. There's a few examples in there. I'll just throw a couple out now. I mean the clown's nose at Western. A lot of people know about that.
Yeah,
For those that don't know, clown's nose was, well, still is a pretty much a pipe bung pellet waggler, isn't it? With
yeah,
a foam polyball on the top. These can be anything from 3 gram all the way up to sort of 10, 12 gram, couldn't they really, mate? And
it's a self hooking rig, isn't it?
yeah, it's a self-hooking rig. And obviously at Western, one of the main things that Mike implicated was the lash limit of obviously 6 inches. Um,
Yeah,
Lash limit is 6 inches and no, obviously, overshotting, with the exception of the use of the jigger rig. Um,
yeah, you can use it, but a jigger's not overshotting, is it? It's
yeah,
a different sort of method altogether. But
yeah, and I
yeah, no self hooking rigs. Basically,
yeah,
you don't allow, does he?
yeah, and I think a few
Do
of
you
the
mean? But
old
that's a way of getting around that.
yeah, and I think a few of the older boys, sort of the over 50s, matches that he runs, a lot of them boys were getting really frustrated, missing bites, all that sort of thing. And there was a few of the guys there that were like, well, we could always do this and make a self-hooking rig that's not overshotted. And I think that came into its own. I can remember going there 3, 4 years ago and I had a really good run in all honesty. I think I won something like 3 or 4 matches, Sunday Opens on the bounce fishing Casters Shallow. Um, but I always remember James Berry and a few of the other old boys were always really hot on your tail, fishing this clown's nose. And to me, and in all honesty, I drew next to James one of the matches, and it's one of the most frustrating days I've ever had because everybody's getting his hook in a fish.
I Yeah, I do always feel that like although it's a good method and it's a way of getting around a rule, I always feel that if you're doing it right and you're fishing casters right
Yeah,
and you've got a 6 inch lash and you're keeping your line tight and you're lifting and dropping it, and I feel that if you're doing it right, you will always outscore that clown's nose.
yeah, 100%.
They get close to you, but I feel like you should outscore it.
Yeah.
You know, it is pushing the rule to the limit,
Yep.
but I feel it's one that doesn't give you a massive advantage.
Yeah.
The
I
ones
think.
that
Go on.
the ones that I sort of feel myself, and I've seen it on a few matches, that I think to myself, you know, that's a bit naughty. That is like,
Yeah.
if I done that, I'd be undrawn and quartered, and you know,
Yeah.
you will see people out there do, like, you know, when it's big limits on, and
Yeah.
like, you know, they sort of like down white diggers. You've got a 4 point limit of casters or maggots.
Yeah.
Now 4 points don't go very far.
Yeah.
Do you mean when you fish breath ones and it doesn't go very far.
Yeah.
So you've always got to sort of like plan your match so that your casters last.
Yeah.
You mean where you see people down there and they from start to finish they're lashing in maggots and casters.
And you
And
think, where
yourself,
did they
well,
come from?
how are you lashing in? How are you lashing in that much bait when it's a 4 point limit? And
Yeah.
you know, they say they're only feeding 4 points, but
Yeah.
you sat sort of close to them, and you're thinking, well, I fed 4 points in 2 hours and caught for 2 hours and then run
Yeah.
out.
It's
You've lashed them in for
Go on.
4.5 hours and carried on catching, and you think to yourself, that's giving you a massive advantage.
Yeah.
Do you mean? And that's one of the ones that I think is a bit naughty.
Yep.
But another one I feel is a bit naughty is like lash lengths and things like that. Like you see people pushing the limits on lash lengths and pole lengths as well, pushing the limit on pole lengths.
Yeah, and I think that should be down to fishery law.
Yeah, it should, but it should be. I think it's a bit of a controversial one, but I feel that it's up to the angler to sort of like police those rules.
Yeah.
And say to someone whether they're a top end sponsored angler or not. I think it's up to the anglers to sort of say, hang about, come on. Like, you know, you can't do that. You know, I'm gonna tell someone, or I'm gonna keep an eye on you, sort of thing. Do you mean? I think it's up to us as anglers to do that. Because if you don't and you just let it go and sort of like, you know, I see it all the time on matches where like you go back, you're all sat in the pub and you're having a chat, and someone to say, oh, so and so done this, and you're like, well, did you tell anyone?
We had it, didn't we? Down.
No, I didn't tell
acres on the Preston.
Yeah, and like they don't tell anyone, but then afterwards they'll start bitching about it, and I think you've got to tell someone, otherwise nothing gets sorted, nothing gets done. Like,
I just want to go back. Do you know the bait one? Obviously, bit of a funny story, because we love a funny story. And you'll probably correct me on this, but I can remember Crocker telling me on the Guru Festival that didn't he get either disqualified or told that he'd got to leave Belingi for having 2 pepper armies on his side tray?
No, it's a bit of a, obviously meat's banned the Belingi.
Yeah.
And obviously he had a pepper army on a side tray to eat because he's a greedy bugger.
Yeah.
And basically they come around and done a bait check and they said, what's that?
Yeah.
And he said, it's a pepper army. And they were like, well, you can't have that. Like, there's no meat. And he was like, it's not for the fish. It's not for the fish. It's for me.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, you know, we get that, but how do we know you're not putting it on after the match?
Yeah.
And he was like, well, what do you want me? He said, like, what do you want me to do with it? And they said, oh, just take it back to the van. So basically, he just took it back. But you know, it was a genuine thing where, yeah, it was for him. Like, do you mean?
Yeah, exactly.
But, you know, I've seen, you know, Rich Chapman you won't hate me for telling this story, but like, I've seen Rich Chapman disqualified on white diggers.
Yeah.
And to be honest with you, I thought it was wrong at the time, because basically you've got an 8-point limit. I'm new.
Yep.
So what Richard done, he's drawn his peg, he's taken all his tackle down to the peg on Twin Oaks, set up, sorted his bait out, and then started taking the rest of the bait back to his van.
Yeah.
Which I think is fine.
Yeah,
For me, he sorted his 8 pints out. and he's
Yeah.
taking the rest back to the van. He's not keeping it on his peg. He's not putting it in his trolley bag or anything. He's taking it away, like.
Yeah.
But as he started to walk off to take it away, they come around to the bait check.
Yeah.
And he was like, they were like, well, where are you off? He said, I'm just taking my leftover bait up to the van.
Yeah.
And they were like, yeah, but you've got more than 8 pints on your peg.
Yeah.
And he said, yeah, but the match hasn't started.
Yeah.
I literally I've sorted my 8 pints down there. I'm just taking this back. It's not needed, like.
Yeah.
And yeah, they basically disqualified him. Basically said to him, you've got too much bait on your peg. And
Yeah.
like, I remember Rich being really upset about it because Rich is not a cheat.
No,
he's not a cheat.
no.
And
Oh.
he would never do that. And felt a bit bad for him because it ruined his festival, ruined his week, basically.
Yeah.
And I think he was being completely honest by taking it back. Like, he could have literally put that bag behind him by his trolley and said, "Oh, there's my bait there." They would have checked his bait and carried on walking. But because he was honest, he's disqualified. So that's a story that he wasn't pushing the rules, but he got disqualified for it.
Yeah.
And then the boys that do push the rules don't get into trouble. So it needs a bit more.
Yeah,
a little bit more sort of thinking about it. Do you mean?
Yeah, I was gonna say, when was the last time you got checked down Whiteacres?
I've been checked a couple of times. Like this year, I never got checked.
Yeah, I was gonna say
last year I got checked. I've always been checked on Belingi.
Yeah,
they've always checked me.
You always do.
Cat Weasel always goes around and checks.
Yeah.
But last year I got checked on site. I didn't this year.
Yeah.
But I've always been the one that I just take what I'm allowed.
Yeah, exactly.
I don't push it.
Yeah.
Just take what I'm allowed. Because I feel that for that same reason I said, if someone comes up to me and says, "Oh, well, you've got too much bait," I don't want to be that person to say, trying to justify that why I've got what I got.
Yeah, exactly.
And, I don't think that's right.
Nope.
And the problem with sort of fishing is, especially with qualifiers and all that now, and we'll go on to that in a bit now, but especially with qualifiers, and when money's involved, there's always going to be someone who wants to cheat or push the boundaries to the point where it's a bit too far. Do you mean?
Yeah, and it's horrible to say, in it, but there's names that come to mind straight away.
Well, yeah, there's people who got a name for doing it, isn't
Yeah.
Out there. I'm not going to mention names,
no,
there are people out there there are people out there that people know push the boundaries, and they're known for pushing the boundaries.
Yeah.
And I don't think that's right. Do you mean? I don't think that's right at all. It's
not at all.
It's one of those things where I feel everyone wants an advantage in fishing because you want to win. So everyone wants an advantage. But when you push it to the point where it goes past that rule and you go past that barrier, so you're really pushing the boundaries too far, that's when it's wrong to me. Correct. If you're pushing the boundaries to the point where you're still within the rules, then that's fine.
Yeah.
But it's when they go that little bit too far, that's when I think it's completely wrong. Like.
Yeah, and like we've said before, anglers need to speak up. That is a main thing, and I want to put that out there. If you see something like this, bring it up, because there's no point going back after the match and saying, "Oh, he or she did this." Like, what's the point?
Exactly. There's no point bad mouthing someone after the match, or like trying to destroy their name after the match, because it's easy to do that. It is.
Yeah.
Tell the organizer. Tell someone.
Yeah.
Even when you're fishing, if you're fishing a match and you're thinking, well, he's taking the piss, you mean?
Yeah.
Ring the organizer and say, he's taking the piss. Can I have a look?
I've made phone calls. I've made phone calls at Weston numerous times for lash length.
You need to sort of like put that out there, like, and you need to speak up either directly after the match or within the match. You can't go back to the pub afterwards and tell all the mates and tell everyone you're having a pint with and think that's gonna solve the problem, because it don't.
Yeah, 100%.
It doesn't solve the problem.
No, it doesn't. It
Yeah.
doesn't.
But I think that's that's my opinion on it. Is that your opinion as well?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. People just need to speak.
Yeah.
People just need to speak up more about it.
Yeah. So should we end that subject and start
Yeah.
speaking about this next one?
Yeah,
Because
definitely.
got one more to discuss. And
Yeah.
like on this video, guys, if you want anything sort of discussed, any subject discussed, just drop it in the comments or personal message one of us, and we'll try and discuss it. But
Yeah.
these are two that we've been sent in, so that's the first one done. The second one is something that's sort of like it's become sort of real big in fishing the last sort of, I say 5 years really. It's really
Yeah.
kicked off is sort of big money finals and
Yeah.
qualifiers.
Yeah.
People have asked to discuss that and asked their opinion on it. And the one comment I had was, are qualifiers and big money finals ruining fishing? That was what I was asked.
Yeah.
And I'd say I'm completely on the fence with the fact that yes and no.
Yeah.
Like I think it's brilliant that we got these big money finals. I think that it's brilliant that we got so many of them, and so many qualifiers.
Yeah.
But I also got a bit of a feeling that is it ruining fishing? Maybe not ruining it, but it's changing.
Yeah. It's
Fishing.
changing the game.
It's changing fishing. Yeah, it's changing fishing
Yeah.
completely. Because I think back to sort of like 10 years ago, when you used to have like you had your fish O's and you had your match this and you had your sort of like golden reel and they were the only
Yeah.
three big money ones and your Park Dean like other than those sort of four there was no big money qualifiers or big money finals.
Nope.
And used to fish opens in the meantime.
Yeah.
Now this last sort of like this year and last year all I've done is fish qualifiers because
Yeah.
every weekend or every day in a week there's a qualifier for a big money final.
Yeah.
And fishing open matches are sort of like being a thing of the past. You don't really fish open
No.
matches.
And
I've seen.
Go on.
Well, I was just going to say I've seen locally to me, it's very hard to find an open match now.
Yeah.
Because years ago you used to have like Saturdays, Sundays, Wednesday open matches.
Yeah.
And now there's very few of them compared to what it used to be.
Yeah.
And I think that's down to the amount of qualifiers there is.
Yeah, I had a message last night from one of the lads that I used to fish a lot with, Dave Craggs. Nice bloke, real nice bloke, saying, how do I get in touch with the owner at Isaac Walton? I want to fish one of the Saturday Opens. And I had to say to him, I said, look, Saturday Opens probably won't run. Because there's no demand for a Saturday Open up there. So the only time you'll get a match is a Wednesday or a Sunday. And
Yeah.
I think this is a thing for me that I think about coming. I've got a bit of a fishery management background as well. I think qualifiers could detriment fisheries. If you haven't got 100 peg venue, I think you will genuinely struggle to keep constant income coming. Unless you've got something that's absolutely amazing, I think you'll really struggle.
Yeah, I feel these big money qualifiers and sort of like, big money festivals, even these 2-day festivals are out there a lot now. The sort of the bigger fisheries, the most well-known fisheries, get the qualifiers, get the festivals, and it's brilliant for them.
Yeah.
I think the sort of less well-known fisheries are smaller, that don't sort of take that pressure of those qualifiers. They're reliant on sort of club bookings then,
they are
pleasure anglers rather than match anglers. And I think, like you said, they're sort of creating a bit of a divide in the fisheries where we're only going to get sort of a handful of fisheries that you have qualifiers on.
Yeah.
That are like sort of man-made for qualifiers.
Yeah.
And then the rest of the fisheries are just going to be clubs and pleasure fishing. There's there's no room for open matches on them now, and it's a bit of a shame, really. It's a bit of a shame how that has gone. But then also, I love the competition of fishing these big money qualifiers and these big money
100%.
finals.
100%.
I love the buzz of it.
Yeah.
I love the buzz of all of it. And for me, I've chosen to go down that route of fishing those qualifiers
Yeah.
to try and get in those finals and fishing those sort of festivals, because that's where my fishing has sort of gone.
Yeah.
If you're not into that sort of thing, then like I said, you struggle to find open matches. You're probably better off joining a club and fishing club matches on a venue that you enjoy.
Yeah.
I think that's the only way I can explain it. But definitely big money qualifiers and big money finals and big money 2-day festivals have definitely changed the sort of face of fishing the way it is now.
Well, this is the thing, isn't it? I mean, obviously Gary Rogers put out last week or the week before about this commercial winter champs, or trophy, whatever he's gonna do. I've already looked at them qualifiers. I'm thinking, Jesus, get me on it, because it fits in around me. A lot of the qualifiers are either midweek or Sundays. Sundays work for me amazingly because Saturdays in winter all I'm doing is playing hockey. But I'm thinking to myself now, if I can get in that final, there's a chance at 10 grand. Let's go do it. It's the buzz, like you say, isn't it?
That's it. It's a buzz to get into those finals, but then if you win one, if you win one or win a couple, the money that's involved in it helps massively in your personal life.
Yeah.
And you can sort of turn those opportunities up. And we'll next week we'll go on to a different subject of sponsorship and stuff like that. But me and you were talking the other day about it, and I'm a sponsored angler. I'm expected to be in those finals and fishing those qualifiers.
Yeah.
As an angler that's not sponsored, you sort of got a choice. Of what you want to do.
Exactly.
But
exactly.
So it's like it's making the angling world more professional by having so many big matches.
Yeah.
But it is sort of creating a bit of a divide between the people who fish those and the people that are sort of fishing club matches and pleasure fishing.
Yeah. Well, this is
changing the face.
Yeah, this is the thing as well. It's a bit of a different topic, but obviously we released the fish show dates last week with the Angling Trust. Again, 20 qualifiers, 11 Saturdays, 9 Wednesdays, pretty much an even split straight down the middle. We got a qualifier back at Gold Valley Lakes. We've got Monks Lake still in, 2 southern qualifiers. But there's still the angler commenting saying no qualifiers for the Southwest. Whichever part of the country it is, it doesn't matter. The ins and outs of it are the fishery that was in the Southwest, Todber Manor, didn't want Fishermania qualifiers this year. The reason for that was there's a hell of a lot of work going on in the fishery, as a lot of people know. But at the same time, I think people are saying, "Oh, do you think it'll still sell out?" And the thing is, when there's 50 grand behind the competition, it's going to sell out, isn't it?
It always sells out, doesn't it? It always sells out. These big money finals, 9 times out of 10, if they're established finals, they sell out.
Yeah.
You had Fish Midlands last year, which started up new. I think Dave Pimlett walked away. Was it 12 grand or 10 grand?
12
grand, I think it was.
Yeah.
He walked away with 12 grand in the first year of the competition starting, and it's going again this year. Rich and all that's behind it, and
Dale,
I'm sure he'll sell out this year. And then you've got John Cook. Doing the Fish South and the Fish South Silvers, and there's big money up for grabs there. It's all brilliant competitions.
Yeah.
And they're great big money sort of finals to try and win. But I do feel, like I said, it is changing the face of match fishing
massively.
And you're planning your year around qualifiers rather than what what else you're doing, sort of thing.
Yeah, and one one
I
thing,
don't know whether you're under the
well,
same opinion of that.
yeah, massively. I think I might be wrong, but I've had a look. I've looked into this quite a bit from a media standpoint and just as an angler, really. I see where this has come from, and it's come from America. The big money aspect has come from America. You've only got to
Yeah,
look at the Bassmaster Elite Series. You've got to look at what was the FLW Tour, now MLF. Every single one of their tournaments, the winner of the tournament will take away between $100 and $150,000, and
yeah,
they are paying down to 50th place, with 50th place being something like $10,000 to the 50th place angler. Um,
yeah.
I think it's where it stemmed from. Obviously, the Americans have been running these big money events for probably nigh on 50 years now. And we're
Yeah,
starting to now catch up with it and running all of these events that are going for decent money.
yeah. And I think, depending on where you stand with it, you're either going to love it or you're going to hate it.
Yep.
Some people are going to say, yeah, it's brilliant. And other people are going to say, no, I hate it. I don't want to be entering these qualifiers. I don't want to be doing these
Yeah.
big money finals. So I think it's a bit of a chalk and cheese job where
Yeah.
some people are going to love it, some people are going to hate it. And I think, whichever one you are, you just need to choose a path in fishing that suits you, basically.
Yeah, exactly.
A path in match fishing that suits you. If you hate those big money qualifiers and finals, and you hate the money it costs you to enter because it is expensive.
Yeah.
Do you mean? But big sort of cost equals big gains, doesn't it? Do you mean?
Yeah,
And
exactly.
that's what they are. If you hate that, sort of go down the sort of club route and fish regular matches within a club. So you've got that regular match fishing, or find a nice little fishery close to you that does run open matches and
Yeah.
and fish them.
Yeah, exactly.
But for all the anglers that love the qualifiers and the big money aspect of it,
Yeah.
get booked on and keep going. Like, you
Yeah,
mean?
exactly. I mean, another example. There's a young lad that lives just down the road here from me. I'm sure his dad won't mind me saying, but Dan, he's only 14 years old and he's mad keen on fishing. And his dad said to him, he's like, I don't think he wants to be involved with the talent pathway, for example, but with any of the CRT stuff, for example, that's run on natural waters, wanting to get that sort of fishing. I think he's got his head set on going commercial fishing. And I've said to him numerous times, obviously he's only 14, and his dad said exactly the same to him. He says, what do I need to do to get him into it? So get him fishing open matches consistently where there's a good turnout, one, and two, just to get the experience in before this all goes to qualifiers, because that's
Yeah,
ideally what it's going to end up
it's
being.
harder to yeah, it's harder to learn then, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's harder to learn fishing qualifiers than it is to fish in club matches and open matches.
Yeah,
And
100%.
I feel sorry for the sort of the youngsters of today coming through, because it
Yeah.
is harder to learn the way it is at the moment.
Yeah.
But also, what I will say is there's lots of like coaching out there. There's lots of YouTube videos.
Yeah.
There's loads more information out there now than when I was younger. Like, so, although it is
Exactly.
harder to learn,
Yeah.
the information is there if you look for it.
Yeah, exactly. And I've been out with Dan 2 or 3 times now, just getting his head straight around commercial fishing. It's one of them things. And like you say, coaching is out there. There's some of the best. Obviously, yourself coaching. I do little bits and bobs. Got Christian, Andy May, Jamie. Everyone's doing it, aren't they?
Yeah.
So the options are
Anywhere
out
you are
there.
in the country, anywhere you are in the country, you can find a top class angler that will do some coaching.
Yeah,
And people say, oh, don't make a difference. Speak to the people who've had it and see
yeah,
how different difference it does make, because
Yeah,
at the end
definitely.
of the day, it's those little things that make the differences, and those little 1%, and
Yeah,
that's why you can teach, and it's definitely worth it. But
yeah,
should we should we call it a day there? We spoke
yeah.
about
We'll
two
call it a day
subjects
there,
and sort of
mate.
our thing.
And
Uh,
like I say, we'll catch up next week, go through some qualifying results, just see who's done what, this, that, and the other. Um, we
yeah,
we can also have a little talk about what we think about Belingi going off the White Acres festivals as well.
and the other one that I got messaged quite a bit about was sponsorship. So
Yeah,
if we do
we'll
next week, guys, if you're watching and you want to tune in next week, we'll do the usual, talking about our fishing and what's going on around the country, who's qualified for what, and then we'll drop in the two topics of, like you said, Belingi down White Diggers. They've sort of
yeah,
parted companies after a long sort of relationship, and also sponsorship.
yeah,
I've had a lot of people message about sponsorship, how they go about getting sponsored, like what is sponsorship, and how do you sort of go about it. So
yeah.
we'll have a little talk about that. We got sort of two angles of it, and we like
So we'll finish it there,
go on.
guys. Um, Obviously, we'll speak about them subjects next week. We've also got a very special guest in Andy Moores coming on, which should be fun, I think.
Yeah, Mosey's Mayhem.
Yeah, so we will cover all them subjects with Morsey, and hopefully get a good perception from him. Obviously, he's been fishing for a hell of a long time on the circuit. But other than
Got a
that,
lot of
guys,
experience.
yeah, other than that, guys, thanks for watching, and we will catch you next week.
Yeah, cheers, guys. Thanks for watching. See you soon.